Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. We just delve right into our news review, starting with the daily graphic. The front page of the daily graphic says double track takes off. That story is on page 16, and you can see students here carrying their mattresses and their trunks and the likes. BOG injects more dollars into the economy. That story is on page 3 of the daily graphic, and of course, special supplement on Kofi Annan. You can find them all inside of the daily graphic today.
Now let's take a look at the Ghanaian Times. The Ghanaian Times says world mourns Kofi Annan, and the full story is on page 24 and 25 this morning of the Ghanaian Times, as well as flood. Bagre Dam spillage destroys 7,000 hectares of crops. Sad. And there's also an inside, it has a full story of Kofi Annan. So there's a special pullout also in the Ghanaian Times this morning.
Okay, on to the Chronicle. Is Highway Authority aware of the problem at Gomwa Boduburam? Boduburam, yes. Are they aware of it? That story is on page 4. Where is Anan's body? And you can find out more about that stories on page 2 and 3. It says here, disappointed mourners ask as casket remains closed. So some people are not happy about the fact that the casket was closed.
Now let's take a look at the Custodian. The Custodian newspaper says Rawlings wants NDC aspirants, and also Kofi Annan goes home tomorrow. Another story, it says NPP manages CD better than NDC, and this is apparently coming from Guta. And finally, how NDC destroyed Ghana's oil industry, part 1. GNPC tore and bust heavy casualties. That's what we have this morning on the front page of the Custodian newspaper.
Now on to the ABC News. $500 million for education infrastructure. That story is on page 3, and there's an editorial here that says deploy NSS personnel productively. I completely agree with that.
Now let's take a look at the Herald. The Herald newspaper is saying this morning that Ato Forcing tackles Veep in $2 billion bauxite deal. Also, dirty scams cited in US $500 million ECG concession. 6,000 ECG workers face uncertain future. Wow, 6,000 ECG workers. Gabi and Baumia's aid throw tantrums at Ghanaians over economic hardship. And finally, MPs angry at special initiative minister. So that's what we have on the front page this morning of the Herald newspaper.
Now let's take a look at the Today newspaper. 5,645 workers to lose jobs in Tema. That story is on page 3. I don't support any candidate. That's coming from our former president, Jerry John Rawlings, and you can find out more about that story on page 2. Finally, Baumia is a failure, or Baumia is, yes, supposed to be Baumia is a failure. That is coming from Nyaho Tamaklo, and you can read more about that story on page 3 of the Today newspaper.
Now, the Ghanaian Observer. The Ghanaian Observer says double track system takes off smoothly. Rawlings bears teeth over NDC elections. I have not endorsed Mahama et al. And finally, also here, Kofi Annan goes home tomorrow as hundreds pay final respects to global icon. And also massive works begin on Medina Road. And finally, NPP's lamps attack on a Kumfi MP.
Wow.
The Honorable Francis Atukujo was like, you know what, he has full support of the people of Ekumfi. There are just about 10 people who were making that noise back then. He does not believe that represents the views of the
I think that's what Gaddafi also even said about the people of Libya. That's a complete
eventually we saw what happened.
Yes. Let's look at the new crusading guide. 50% Hajj pilgrims back home safely. Last batch expected by 19th September. That story is on page 10. GNPC saga. Ken Ofori-Atta ill advised. And you can read up on those stories on pages 3 and 10. Risky $2 billion bauxite deal. Government has no contingency plan. That's coming from Imani. And finally, change Tema East to Backbin constituency. That's coming from the NDC executives.
Now let's take a look at the Daily Heritage, which says government to demolish 434 structures. And the full story is on page 3. So this demolition is apparently going to take place at Agbogloshi, and 1,118 residents will be affected. Amnesty International criticizes this move. So that's what we have on the front page this morning of the Daily Heritage, as well as Krowo MP schools 1,304 students at second annual free pre-SHS classes. Well, some members of parliament have taken it upon themselves to educate some of their constituents. I think Johnny Tim Fodger also is doing something similar. Thousands pay last respect to Kofi Annan, and the full story is on page 11. And finally, Labadi Beach Hotel hosts Miss Universe Saturday, September 15. Anyway.
Okay, let's take a look at the Independent. It is just one story, of course. Ghanaians bid farewell to Busumuru Kofi Annan. Many expressed disappointment over closed casket. That story is on page 2 of the Independent.
Now let's take a look finally here at in respect of the papers before we go to some online stories. The Gold Street Business. The Gold Street Business says IMCIM cautions DCs on illegal small-scale mining, provides 4 main compliance measures. And also Akufo-Addo drives ICT transformation in Ghana with Huawei. And finally, SEC sets governance code for listed company, and it seeks to enforce regulations on disclosure and transparency.
So that was the Gold Street.
The Gold Street Business.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we have online?
Yes. No leakage in ongoing teacher licensure exam. That's coming from the NTC. $2 billion bauxite deal projects need parliamentary approval. That's coming from Imani. Mahama won't be competition for Nanado in 2020. That's coming from Hagman. And Edward Bauer petitions Shrug over bust $3 million payment to Springfield. Group sues EC over creation of new regions. So those are the stories in City Newsroom.
Okay, well, it's initially there were just reports that he is going to petition Straj, but then finally I think same has been done. Now we'll just introduce our guest for today. We are joined by Honorable Murtala Mohammed. He's the former Member of Parliament for Nantong, and he's also the former Deputy Minister for Trade. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Good morning.
So nice to have you once again.
We can't complain. We're all struggling under this mess.
Anyway,
we're so optimistic.
Aren't you?
That's an interesting that's an interesting introduction. We've also been joined by Nana Fredua Agyeman Murtala. He's an MPP communications team member. Good morning, welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Thank you, sir.
How are you feeling?
Surviving.
You're surviving. Okay.
This is a traditional leader. He's a chief.
Yes.
Yes, he's a chief.
You haven't said anything.
I'm just reminding them.
You haven't said anything unusual.
Be properly introduced.
He's very interested in like his cohorts.
Of course, if you want to
if he wants to do that, then you must show the due respect.
Okay.
Yes. So when I'm talking, don't talk.
No.
Okay, well, remember to join us with the hashtag Breakfast Daily on all social media platforms, and of course the WhatsApp line
0550-585-832. So we start with the first topic. I'm reading from the Daily Graphic, page 16. Double track takes off. The double track system of the free senior high school policy took up yesterday with mixed reactions from parents and students. Although the registration of students was mostly smooth, there were some hiccups that frustrated parents and their children. So let's get your thoughts on the official first day of the double track system.
Well, by all indications, it seems to have gone well. Your reportage, I had the benefit of viewing it. It seems to have gone well. The hitches that came, I doubt, were unexpected. They're bound to. The actual hitch will not be expected, but the fact that we'll have hitches is not something that would surprise anybody. All in all, it seems like everybody is optimistic about making it happen. I noticed the headmistress from Suhum. If she's the same headmistress who's been there for the last maybe 10 years or so, her dynamism she showed is not surprising. That's how she is. You should see her interact with her students. It's amazing. And if you notice, what she was doing was she was saying that it is something she can do and that the system is actually not meeting her standard or quota. Yes. So she's demanding it. For me, that's a pleasant feeling. It means she fully appreciates the circumstances and the benefits that it can bring. When you've talked to her, I've had the benefit of hearing her, is why I'm saying the things I'm saying. When you talk to her and you ask the community what she in particular and the school in general, the school was set up set up almost 20 years ago or so, and one of the founding fathers of the school was Dr. Baumia's father. Now, when they tell you about how they started and where they've been able to get to, it's amazing, and it's because of people like her. So you can see that she's, when you know, if you listen to her closely, she's actually daring the officials to get to work.
More,
yeah. You know, and for me that's impressive. I hope they listen to her. So generally it seems like we're everything is on track. I'm still not clear in my mind exactly what it is that people have an issue with.
Okay, I can list a few because it seems there seems to be quite some fundamental problems to me. Because if you look at Takrade SHS, for instance, the gold track home econ students who were supposed to go November 8th, they've been asked to report to the school, and they have reported to the school already, which is clearly against the whole national policy, the whole system that has been put in place by the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service. Now, if you look also at Wesley Girls Senior High School, Wege, the signs, instead of the double track, the whole gold and green system that is being run currently, they are not following that. They have set up their own system which they are following. They are doing it by course. So instead, they're using the science students, and their home econ students are the students that have been called to come to school. So they are not following your gold. Their double track is based on subject and not based on computer placement necessarily. Also in university practice SHS, what's happening also is that the business students and the general arts students, so some of the schools seem to be deviating from the standards set by the GES.
Okay, the question I was raising was to do with the philosophical stance of people with regard to this double track system thing. So that's the question. But let's talk about this first. Those details are details that I find interesting as you present them. I haven't heard them before. I think that the system, i.e. the managers of it, would be looking at issues like this and finding out, first of all, are they authorized? Is it something that's been accepted that we should, those particular schools can do what they're choosing to do? And if so how come people don't know if they don't know? I mean, whatever the questions are, I think they're fair questions. These ones are technical issues that should be dealt with quickly so that you resolve the matter for students to be able to go to school. And they should, I mean, if you're talking about November or in September, it will affect people and their planning and I don't know what to say, but there are things that sound answerable, once the system. What I was referring to was the philosophical stance people take about why aren't you putting up structures before you let people go to school and all that stuff. I mean, listen to this woman from Suhum. She has the space. She has capacity for 1,000 and some students, and she only has 500 students. She's even pushing that you bring in more boarding people. I heard your comment about her comment about pregnancy. Those are real things on the ground with her, is what she was stating. So she's trying to deal with all of those things, and she's pushing for that. Now, why should we leave a school building empty if we can use it for the reason it was put up at certain periods in time, and we have a stock of human beings who must be educated? If that has been thought through, what's wrong with that? Do you know that in some settings, people have actually thought through that and now have that system that they're preparing to set up, or especially on the secondary and tertiary levels? They have, I forgot, there's a term for it. I wish I could remember, because it's something you could Google and find out. Where they're setting up the buildings so that they become year-round. They have human beings in there getting educated and working. So if we figured it out now, what's wrong with that? I've been told only yesterday, interestingly, by the one of the executives of the NDC on the national level, Mr. Solomon Nkansa, was educating me yesterday in the same argument that in Japan they have that system running, so that in the fishing areas, because of the fishing season, they've got a tracking system that allows people to get educated at different. The point, therefore, is that it works.
Okay.
So we should be excited about it. We're getting 400,000 students to get educated. When this thing was first proposed by Nana Akufo-Addo in 2008, we threw it out the window. Since then, on average, 100,000 students missed out on getting the opportunity to get educated. It took 800,000 students over the 8-year period that we didn't get that. 800,000 students did not get this opportunity.
How are you reaching this figure?
As a GES put out a figure that 100,000 students on average every year miss out on going to secondary school because they can't afford it. That's what they put out. And I thought GES was in Ghana.
That's not true.
Okay, then let me finish and then you bring your truth. But this one is a matter of fact.
Check the website.
GES says that 100,000 on average, they published this in, I believe, 2016. 100,000 on average do not get to go to school. So 800,000 on average between 2009 and 2016 didn't get to go to school. Now, take that same figure, 2017. 100,000, well, they gave, in fact, it was 90,000 last year, got to go to school. This year, this roughly the same figure. Why do we want people to stay home because some grown-ups or finally educated people or people who benefit from having gotten power and so they're sitting in their political offices and are comfortable, think that when they are able to give contracts for people to put up buildings before children should get to go to school, meanwhile you'd have thrown away somebody's life? I don't understand. I just don't understand. I mean, how selfish can one be? For me, we're on track. This is what's going to help. Let's do it. Let's get people educated. I'm looking for the arguments for the quality of our education. Remember the last time we were here, we talked about teachers' reactions to it. And I raised the point. They were primarily interested in whether they're going to get paid or not. Remember, and I quoted a professor who passed away and how he, in his tribute, in his own burial brochure, he wrote tributes to people who helped him, including his teachers. And the fact that they made him who he is, because they looked out for him without, and he went for extra classes without paying.
Okay. Thank you, Nana.
So the point is, what are we fighting for? Are we not fighting to secure a future?
Okay. Honorable.
Well, I prefer Comrade. You can give the honorable title to him. Good morning.
To Comrade and Nana.
Honorable
That's
Nana.
fine.
Good morning to your cherished viewers and
Africans and titles.
And my chief, who is engaged in politics. The figures he provided are factually inaccurate, absolutely inaccurate, and I can understand. Those inaccurate figures have been put out by no less a person than His Excellency, the President. And if a president himself is putting out figures...
Did you hear the president put out that figure?
Oh yes, I'll tell you, and I'll give you evidences. I don't make statements without providing the evidences.
That's fair.
The president, when he had the encounter with you guys, the media, he said that
90,000
more students. He said that 90,000 more students would have been...
But the president did not mention the 800,000.
I'm saying that Okay. I'm talking about
the 90,000.
He went ahead. I will tell you where he is getting that outrageous 100,000. Yeah. The president said that 90,000 more students. He made that statement when he had. That was not factually accurate. Yeah. When he had his statement in Parliament, he made same factual inaccurate statement and gave same figure, but he's noted for giving figures that are not accurate. When he attended education conference in Dakar, he quoted over 100,000, and that is where my honorable friend is getting that 100,000. 90,000 in Ghana, went to Dakar and quoted 100,000. When he came back from Dakar, the GES put on their website, and I challenge your producers to check now, 52,000. 52,000. Yet the president gave two different figures. And I remember on a sister TV station, I raised this issue. And my honorable friend who was from the MPP and represented MPP said that the president certainly would have been putting out those figures because that was the figures they projected. And at the end of the day, the GES will put figure that actually who indeed took advantage of the opportunity. And I said, fine, if that is the case, I won't begrudge the president. So I expect that in subsequent speeches that he will deliver, he will come back to the accurate figure put up by GES on their website. The president never heeded that. He keeps on mentioning the 90,000, which is factually inaccurate. When he talked about the 100,000, I challenge said GES website. I challenge your producers to do the checking and shame me or shame him. That is not true. Absolutely not true. So the president said 90,000 here, went to Dakar and said over 100,000, came back to Ghana and repeated the 90,000. When GES put on their website 52,000, I checked it yesterday. And in fact, yesterday on Metro TV, I was with another honorable friend from the MPP. It made the producers to check and provided it on their screens, 52,000. So my honorable friend, I beg you, don't ever mention that 90,000 or 100,000 because you are supposed to be communicating to the Ghanaian people truthfully and honestly. You don't put out figures that you know are completely fabricated, concocted to justify the haphazard implementation of the free SHS. But let me come to the issue of the double tracking. You call this a success when over 60,000 students haven't been placed yet. You call this a success because there's a head teacher somewhere who said that people who were sent to him were sent in the capacity as these students. When he's sent to her, were sent as these students. One her school has the capacity to admit more and use that as justification. 67,000 by the same GES and the Ministry of Education haven't been placed yet.
But there's an explanation given for the 67,000. The explanation is that the schools they selected, they did not get those schools. So then they have been given the option to select.
Whose responsibility is it to place them? Is it the responsibility of the student or the parent? But it's the responsibility of the Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education.
No, but respectfully, that on that particular issue, it's being worked on now. As in they are given the option to select a region that they want to school in, and then a list of schools will be provided for them.
So that's why I ask a simple question. So then they make over 67,000 have not gotten yet, we call it a success. Wait until you get those people placed. The parents of those 67,000 will watch this program and get extremely angry because some of them would have to struggle to get their kids placed. You call it a success. By the way, we are talking about a system that has never been tested anywhere, that has never been implemented anywhere. And once again, I am taking same official statement coming from this incompetent government. The Minister for Education told us that this system had been implemented in Los Angeles in America, implemented in Canada, and implemented in Kenya.
Africa, yes.
In Kenya, when the ministry and the government was caught pants down, because you remember, a lot of the media houses, and I guess your station also, contacted educationists and policymakers in those areas and implementers. And they said, no, we don't implement such a program. I listened to the Deputy Minister for Education, by the way, who is doing excellently well to defend the mess. He came on a sister station, in fact, Joy FM specifically. And when they put the question to him, his response was that yes, if of two or more. Now, if it is a hybrid system, it's a new system. A system that has never been tested. A system that has never been implemented anywhere. You are subjecting people's kids as guinea pigs in the laboratory. That is what this government is doing. And that is extremely dangerous. I speak passionately about this. But let me point out to my honorable friend once again. He's talking about this thing that when President Nanado, then candidate Nanado, indeed came out with this idea, people indeed rubbish it, and people felt that it could not be implemented. The NDC and the civil society groups and those who matter in the area of education have been indeed vindicated in every single issue that we have raised. Every single issue we have been vindicated. Now, if there is a coalition of civil society groups in the area of education who have done an impact assessment, by the way, government should have done that, they haven't done that. Impact assessment on the implementation of the free SHS, and their reports are extremely shocking. Per the free SHS, every single student is supposed to be given 9 exercise books. That apart from Greater Accra, all the 9 regions, people have been given less than 9 exercise books. Some are given 2, some are given 3. Now, if I ask you that with this untested and unimplemented program that you are implementing, and expect us to clap for you, even if you succeed in reducing the numbers in class, and as a professionally trained teacher, I will tell you, reducing numbers in class is not, in fact, essential when it comes to impacting knowledge. It is necessary, but it is not essential. If you reduce numbers to even 5, and people are supposed to be given 9 exercise books, then you end up giving them 2 exercise books. They do 9 exercises in 2 exercise books, and you call that a success. And again, teachers, now he made an outrageous example of someone writing of whether in his memoir or in whatever, and said that he thanks his teacher. How can you be increasing fuel prices and expect teachers not to demand that you should increase prices, increase their salaries, if indeed you want to give them an additional responsibility? But let me go.
They are not getting any additional responsibility.
I'm saying that, hold on. I listened to the NAT. They have made palpable statement that if you want us to have this, then we need this. Government then came out and said they are admitting they are employing 8,000 more students. Do you know the employment hasn't been done?
Teachers.
It hasn't been done yet schools have resumed. Does it simply make sense? But let me go to the figures provided by this government in the financial.
I just want to respond to that. I don't want some of the statements just to go because most of the teachers to be employed. By the time the gold track starts, they would have been employed. And also some of the headmistresses, I listened to one headmistress who confirmed that I think Kimbu Secondary School, that she's expecting 2 more teachers. She has received 2 letters of teachers who will be joining her this very month.
But who will be joining? They haven't joined yet. Yet people are reporting.
But generally, you agree that free SHS is better than no SHS
the
at all,
NDC
right?
has never said free SHS was not
okay,
good.
so you agree with
we
that.
have never said
and you also agree that when you start something new, there will be glitches.
It's not about when you want to deal with the destiny of kids. Would you allow your kids to be subjected as guinea pigs in laboratory? Would you want them
I
to
don't
do
think
that?
they are being subjected as guinea pigs. Okay.
When we talk of subjecting people as guinea pigs, using them as experiment. In fact, the SSS system, remember it was piloted for several years before some of us indeed were introduced into it. But I'm coming to figures provided.
Murtala, I'll let you come to the figures. We have to go on a quick break now.
We do have to take a quick break. Then you tell us the numbers. I think people are also.
Yes,
we want to get your numbers on Mohammed. Thank you guys so much. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. We are discussing the official first day of the double track system that took place yesterday and what our guests think of it. So we'll be right back.
The program of activities lined up for the funeral rites of the late Kofi Annan are as follows. Monday, the 10th of September 2018, arrival of Kofi Annan's remains at the Kotoka International Airport at 4 p.m. The remains will be accompanied by his widow, children, and some UN officials. The remains will be received by the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, at a ceremony led by the Ghana Armed Forces. Tuesday, the 11th of September 2018, filing past and paying of last respects by the general public at the Accra International Conference Center between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Wednesday, the 12th of September 2018, filing past and paying of last respects by dignitaries, including recognized groups, chiefs, members of parliament, ministers of state, and diplomatic corps. Thursday, the 13th of September 2018, burial service. Service commences at 9 a.m. at the Accra International Conference Center. Service will be attended by UN officials, heads of state, diplomatic delegations, and the general public. There will be a private burial at midday at the military cemetery with full military honors and a 17-gun salute. Come, let's mourn our illustrious son, brother, father, and international diplomat, Busumburu Kofi Atta-Annan. Come one, come on.
Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. Before the break, we were discussing the first day of the double-track free SHS system, and our
Murtala Mohammed
us to use for him.
Comrade
Murtala.
Honorable Chief Nana.
Okay, please
I was
continue
making a
briefly
point,
so that we move on to the next one.
Government
So that
official figures provided, and these official figures were provided under oath. They were provided in the financial statement presented by the Minister for Finance on behalf of His Excellency the President. And I want to just read in that budget statement, and you see how confused this government is. They can't even manage data. The same statement, if you take the page in the 2018 budget, now take paragraph 799 on page 142. Government in a weird twister provided another figure, because you see earlier they provided a figure of, in fact, let me go to the first one. If we take page paragraph 621 on page 114 of the 2018 budget statement, government provided a figure of 353,000 as those who indeed first year benefited from the free SHS. 353,053. That is paragraph 621 on page 114. Now, in the same budget statement, 2018, paragraph 799 on page 142, government in a weird twist provided another figure of 396,941. A difference of almost 40,000. The same statement, the same budget. Now, you come to what they call the finance minister. When he had the opportunity to present the mid-year budget, the figure he provided was 362,118. Minister of Finance and the mid-year budget provided a different figure. Now you have the Minister for Education, who indeed, in what they call the ministry, provide a figure of 361,000, a different figure. So you have one budget statement, two different figures on the same matter as to the number of people who benefited. Mid-year budget comes, a different figure. Minister for Education, who is also presenting another figure, presented a different figure. So is it surprising that the president will keep on dancing chaskele over figures that he is providing? Now, we have demanded, and we will continue to demand, that for a policy such as free SHS, there should be a policy document. Perhaps we are not asking of a document that is in a paper form. It should be found on the website of the Ministry of Education or the Ghana Education Service. As we sit today, 2 years in the implementation of that program, there isn't a single policy document. My understanding of a policy document, and as a development planner, is that it guides you. Some of these challenges that you encounter would have been projected and possible means of overcoming those challenges. You haven't been able to do that. So if a government cannot even manage figures, they give us inaccurate figures, some of them are absurd. How can we trust them in the haphazard implementation? The NDC never said that we are against free education. In fact, we started the progressive implementation. Ask them why they have stopped giving the free school uniforms. Ask them why they have stopped giving the sandals. By the way, the justification for the introduction of this untested, unexamined, unimplemented double-track system is because they have a challenge of 180,000 spaces. Do you know the 200 free SHS that President Mahama with vision started, would they lambasted and lampooned? Do you know that particular thing? Each of them provides a space of 1,500. So the 200 would have given you 300,000 spaces. Now we started with 74. We finished with
Ministry of Education website. You finished 46.
the minister that cannot even give us accurate data. provided in an official statement, how do you trust any information? We challenged them, and we came out with a list. The NDC came out with a list of all the schools we provide. By the way, Agyosafo indeed took one of the FSHS that we provided. Perhaps we don't know who also took one, and they can take away those stealing FSHS project, and then will tell us that we
do have to wrap up.
I'm saying that we're engaged in providing that. But by the way, if you have a checking of 180,000, what visionary government do is that you would have been looking forward into completing the 74 that we started, and the spaces would have been made available. We don't need this untested program, but we may have triple track and quadruple track.
The Minister of Education also said they completed 13 of the ones you started.
When did they complete 13? By the way, let me tell you, those contractors who were engaged in those ones, they refused to pay. Credit to their financier Nyantachi, who said that NDC contractors wouldn't be paid.
There's no such direct correlation. So let's just stick to the issues and wrap up, please. Time has been fasting.
I know, but we do have to wrap up and move on to the next topic.
I don't know actually who was the financier, whether Nyantachi was the financier.
Okay, thank you very much.
You know, he was one of the first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you very much, Nana. Your response, and then we can move on to the next topic.
The contradictions are obvious to the public, so I want to overhash them. First of all, I'd expect some diplomacy from you. You've insulted everybody you can think of, and I said nothing. So I'd expect that should be diplomatic. Now, the first thing is, the contradictions are many. I quoted, I said it was reported in 2016, and I'd read that in the graphic. It wasn't told to me by the president. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
Second thing is, when you go, I just opened one, I was trying to get the information for you. I just opened one graphic online proposal. Let's even stick. Let's say that I was wrong. I accept the figure. And let's go with his figure, 52,000. I'm arguing that from 2009 to 2016, 52,000 a year times 8 gives you 416,000 students who did not benefit from getting an education because they couldn't find the money.
From 100 down to 52,000.
You know what I'm saying? So if he's trying to tell me that it's all right, we'll leave that to the parents and those students. Now, another point is that he talks about policy document. Those hundreds of thousands of students and their parents who benefited from this policy before they go to school. That's all I'm interested in. Hope at last for 2014, 2015 and 2016 BEC students who did not have financial capacity to go. Now they were registering in 2017 to go to school. Some would have been in their third year if they'd gone. Let's stick with the 52,000 because why? My 100,000 is concocted. 52 times 3 is 156,000 students. Do we want to say that their lives don't matter because you want a policy document or something? And then let's go to the records. What did you say in 2008 about free SHS, including Mr. Mahama? What did they say? It's all in the record. It's not for non-African. So you can say what you want. You can rant and rave over what you like. The issue is this. Hundreds of thousands of people are getting educated. Students are going to school and parents are saving money. Some wouldn't have found that money, and so they'd have had a hard time. Thank God for this policy. We will move on. People will get educated, and he should continue on his line of thinking. People are listening. Excuse me to say, Ghanaians are not stupid. They're listening. That's for me. I like what he's doing. He should continue.
Thank you. I do have to. We have some comments from our viewers. Yes, I know, but I want us to listen to our viewers. I just want to share what our viewers are thinking with us, and then we continue. Is that fine? Okay. So let me see here. Nana Yao says, Breakfast Daily, I really support the double track system until I saw an aggregate 17 students being admitted to Presec Legon. Is it quality we want or quantity? So that's coming from Nana Yao. Olanyo Nakwetia says, I don't understand why both gold and green should all go for the registration at the same time. Meanwhile, they will be going to school. They will be going to school at the same time. I think you meant at different times, not at the same time. Knowing very well that there will be much pressure on the schools for the registration, and you do this, you have not been fair to the schools. As for its implementation, everyone has a different view, but as time goes on, we will all understand. Michael Amanin from the UK says, though there are insufficient infrastructural facilities to absorb about 180,000 JHS students, who might have missed the opportunity to receive secondary education, but a visionary government of President Akufo-Addo, who values education, has thought outside the box to introduce the double-track system to cater for these huge numbers. As a matter of this new policy may encounter the initial challenges, but let all Ghanaians support, irrespective of our political party affiliation, to make this education policy a reality. So those are the comments we have from our viewers. We do have to move on to the next topic because we have at least 3 more topics to go through. It is fair. We've spent 40 minutes. We've spent 40 minutes on this.
It's good. You should be fair. He started.
Okay, just 1 minute.
Very fair.
Let's give him 1 minute.
He started. I came. You gave me.
Just 1 minute, please. Yes, 1 minute.
The president credited the late J.H. Mensah for the double track. Yes. That was factually inaccurate. But you see, he's making reference to the 52,000. Go and check in the...
Okay.
30 seconds.
I'm saying that every single year, the number of students from 2013 to 2018, we say, the number of students who gain admissions into second cycle institutions increases. As a matter of fact, if you take 2000...
No, I think we are going overboard now. I think we get the point you're trying to make is that there's subsequent increases, and therefore, I want us to move on. I want us to move on. Murtala Mohammed, thank you very much. The next story I want us to discuss, please, respectfully.
I'm not very honest with you.
No, but we have to move on.
That's fine. Let's move on.
Very desperate.
We are very sorry.
No,
we are very, very sorry.
I am not. I must be very honest. I won't.
We are very sorry.
Feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because I'm making a point. You asked me to make the point.
Please make your point.
Factually inaccurate statement. You allowed us to.
We're sorry. Please respond. Please respond. Please respond. It's necessary.
Let's move on to the next story.
Let's move to the next topic.
They who must be heard.
Okay. Okay, the next topic says, yes, group sues...
Apologize to people for putting out 100,000, which you knew was not true.
Okay.
Apologize to the viewing public.
Okay, so we are going to move on to the next topic. The free SHS, we're supposed to talk about that for just 20 minutes. We've spent 40 minutes on it, so we'll discuss the next topic. Group sues EC AG over creation of new regions. A group calling itself Strategic Thinkers Network Africa has dragged the Electoral Commission and the Attorney General to the Supreme Court over the yet to be created 6 additional regions in Ghana. The group is seeking an injunction on their referendum process to be held in beneficiary communities. So let's get your thoughts on that, please.
Well, I think that the issues of more regions created, there are several reasons why people would want to create regions. There could be administrative reasons, it could be political, it could be economic, it could be social, whatever the case is, there should be some compelling justification. And as a matter of fact, the processes to even have it, created, anchored on legal issues. Let me, and I'm proud to announce that my thesis was on local governance.
Wow.
So I have some understanding of what the creation of either district or metropolitan assemblies and regions are. If you ask me strictly speaking, I would say I'm not against the creation of any region or additional districts, but the purpose for the creation will it be served. If you take regions such as Northern Region, Northern Region is a very huge region in terms of landmass.
Yeah.
But the numbers may not be as compared to other regions. Now, if you want to travel from one area of Northern Region to the other, let's say from Bunkpurgu to Sola, it may take you a whole day. It will take a whole day not because of the distance per se, but because of the nature of the roads. There are some who have argued that creating or dividing Northern Region may not be necessary if you are able to fix those roads. So administratively, the cost would have been reduced by you being able to fix those roads. Others have also argued that yes, in as much as we need to fix those roads, which are sine qua non to ensuring that administrative work and cost of running those administrations are reduced, are good. But under the circumstances, we will not be able to do that, and therefore we think that we must create the region. Now, that if you say that we will not be able to indeed build those roads, build infrastructure, and for which reason there is a justification for the division of the region. What is the guarantee that even when the region is divided, you will be able to fix those same infrastructure deficits that those areas, you know, are facing? So there isn't a straitjacket reason. But whatever the case is, it has to go through a legal process. It has to go through referendum. People are asking as to whether what the law says is going to be everybody who lives in that region who would vote, or the affected areas are those who are going to vote. If you ask me my candid opinion, and legalistically speaking, I would think that it should be appropriate that you don't limit it to only the affected area. You should make it such that all those within the region will have the right to vote. Because if I am in northern region, and northern region is going to be divided, I should have an interest in the division of the region. It is not about the areas with whom the new region is going to be created for. I should have. My worry about this has to do with how broad-based has the consultation been. And I will give you palpable evidences that, look, in planning we say that you don't implement before you plan. You plan before you implement. There should be a broad-based consultation, and I shudder to think that that broad-based consultation hasn't been done as expected. And the reason is simple. Take northern region, for example. You have a lot of kingdoms and paramounces. You have several ethnic groups in northern region. But you have dominant ethnic groups in northern region. The Dogombes, the Gonjas, the Mamprisis, the Nanumbes, the Kunkumbes. Now, you have had all these people who, their traditional authorities, have held press conferences. The Nairi held a press conference and demanded the division of the region. The Gonja, the Yobonwura also held a press conference and demanded. And the difficulty in northern region is that you have Gonja lands that are intertwined with the Bang land. You have East and West Gonja. Now, if you are moving from East to West Gonja, you have to cross over the Bang land or Nanum land
so
before
it's difficult to divide.
You get to that. And that is why I think that we need to deepen the consultation. If you ask me, I would suggest, in my humble opinion, in my experience, you know, I would say that dividing the northern region will be good. But how is the division going to be done? The rhetorics that are coming from these traditional authorities is something that is not pleasing to me. Just recently, you had the incident in the Boya and Trolang over a parcel of land. These are just signals that we ought to do so much. But if you ask me another question, the political aspects of the division. Why is it that Ashanti region is not divided? Administratively, it's difficult not on the basis of landmass, but on the basis of numbers. Why is it not divided? Why is Eastern region not divided? I really don't think that the Ashanti Hine will be very comfortable to find his kingdom divided.
Well, these guys are requesting for the division, right?
No,
so it's
I'm saying that there is nothing wrong with
things the way they
taking
are.
a position that, because you see, all the views and positions, transigent positions taken by these paramounces in the northern region, they have to do with traditional,
tribal and
no, not necessarily traditional authority.
So
if I am the Yana, this is my land, but per the division, part of my land is going to be in a different region. Administratively, taxes and everything will not come to me. Royalties wouldn't be paid to me. Royalties will be paid to who? The assembly and the region, and the region will then give me my royalty. The complexities are just too much. So if you ask me, I will tell you, and this one I won't discuss it with political lenses, but as a technical person, it is good, but we need to tread cautiously. We should not underestimate those ethnic and tribal intricacies and concerns that have been palpably expressed by not just ordinary people, but traditional authorities.
Thank you very much, Nana.
The issue on the table is this lawsuit that is being sent by this group. They call it strategic planning something. I missed the name. They should forgive me. And their argument primarily is that they think that everybody should be voting, and then that there should be an injunction on the voter register for those areas. There's no reference to the constitutional requirement on the creation of regions. I can't remember it.
What do you mean there's no reference to it?
In the article that discusses...
No, well, I read their statement of claim, and they have referred a lot to the Constitution and also to case law.
They've referred to Article 45,
Yes, that's what's in the report.
Specifically to 45A. Yes, I'm saying.
Sorry, that's what's in the report. But if you read the statement of claim itself, they speak from the chapter dealing with the territories of Ghana, that's chapter 3, and then they go also from Article 4, 5. They dealt with everything tentative.
I'm saying that I can't refer immediately to the portion of the Constitution that says that this is how you go about establishing a region. I needed that because that is what has happened. The processes that we've gone through have included consultation. If you followed the minister and the ministry over the past year, there's been a lot of consultation. Out of that, the Justice Brube Commission was set up, which now went ahead to do even more consultation and go through the processes. They now submitted a report to the presidency, through which they have now gone to the point where it's time for this referendum. As far as I remember, the law says that the people in the area should be the ones who determine whether this should happen or not.
No, what the law says is that those affected. So if you look at the affidavit, it's an injunction, so it's a motion. Right. So if you look at the affidavit supporting the motion, what they're saying is that the people affected, well, that's obviously what the law says, but then they are looking for everyone, even if this is going to go, everyone should be, and not the limited. And they're saying that the Commission of Inquiry should not have the power to determine X and Y people are supposed to vote. Per the true and proper interpretation of the Constitution, that is not a power given to them. That's their position.
What I was saying was that, as far as I understand the Constitution's proposal, it is the neighborhood where they're going to divide. They're the ones who get to be involved in that referendum.
No, the word says those affected.
The region, for example, if you take Northern
those in that neighborhood. In this case, let's say Brown and Afro. They're the ones. Those who are going
the reason I keep insisting on the word affected because Professor Kweku Asari, for instance, says that even those affected, somebody living in Accra may be affected by such a division. So let's look at what this.
Okay, so that clarity is there, and if that is what they're seeking clarification, my understanding was that it was those in their area. So if it's in Brown Afro, it's Brown Afro that's voting. So if now there's a question, the context within which a word like affected means, I think it's a fair argument that they should put up. Otherwise, really, what are the issues on this? Every time it's been reported, everybody, when I say everybody in very general terms, sort of brushes over it because we tend not to think that it affects us, but it truly does. And now, so maybe we should be, that this move by this group should prompt us to now pay a little bit more attention. One of the realities about this is that it's going to open up those areas even more. That's a reality. If you have a place that's spaced out and people are not paying attention to the very far off places, there's a problem. So when you now section them off to be an entity on their own, you bring a certain attention to them, which then brings all the other benefits. Of course, also the negatives might follow, but clearly the benefits are what you look at to see how it works out. To the eastern region, for example, and for argument's sake, you wanted to section out. In fact, now we have Afram Plains North and Afram Plains as districts. If you now said that, okay, you want them to even benefit more because of what they suffer from, which is that they're spaced out, it's difficult to reach and all that. So you're sectioning them off to a region. On the ground, you might find that to make a lot of economic sense, a lot of social sense, because of the hardships that they go through. So the technicalities of the benefits of this is what we are considering, right? And it seems to me, from the outside looking in, I don't live in Bonav, I don't live in the northern region, I don't live in the west. From the outside looking in, when you look at the facts, when you look at the players, the traditional authority people were very excited when it was proposed by Nana Akufo-Addo during the campaign that they would consider that in government. They were very excited, and they pushed it. They pushed the argument that that's what they want. And immediately he took office, some of them he started saying, well, how soon are you doing this? So when everything was set in motion, including the appointment of the minister, then people were more satisfied. And they came up with their views on all these issues. So it says that on the ground, there's a certain argument that people have for it. So let's see how this pans out. I mean, until you just made this point about affected, I was going to say, what are we fighting over? But now it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay. Our last story, and we'll tie it into your closing remarks.
No, before you go on, I just want to say, we have just a few minutes to go, but I want you to tie it into the fact that Ghanaians are complaining about the closed casket of Kofi Annan, and just quick comments on that.
Well, I'm saying that the Bank Kingdom are the largest, in the northern region. Now you have the entire kingdom held a press conference and said that not a portion of their land is going to any region. You have the Mamprogo that also said they want a region to be created. You have the Gonjas that, and in fact, in planning, consensus building and social issues are even more important than the physical issues. Because at the end of the day, you can go ahead and do that and it will come to naught. But the contention here is that we have had regions created before. Yeah. The question is, how did we create those regions? Now, there was a proposition or a proposal that in creating the region from Volta region, it's only the areas that will be affected here are those who are going to vote. And I think that this RIT is seeking to find out that it's not just the entire Ghana who should, but the entirety of Volta region, residents in Volta region, should be able to determine that. If you say that only those who are going to be affected are those who would have the right to vote, and I think that is where the problem comes. Now, I don't see the point in whether it falls to customs and traditions. In this country, many people want to impose their customs and traditions on everybody. It's not every society in Ghana that go and march past a dead body. It's not every society. So I listened to this statement that are made by, I don't want to mention names, even those in academia, and the argument is that for they not allowed to see the body, you know, violates our traditions and customs. Most ethnic groups, they don't walk past a dead body. So that will not even stand as that. And again, the circumstances and then the person involved here, I think that the decision to allow people to walk past a dead body is a decision that must be taken by the family. I don't think that it should be a decision that should be taken by the state. Everything the state is going to do in the burial of Kofi Annan, they would have to do that in understanding with the family. So if the family decides that we don't think that people should, I don't think you can falter anybody for not allowing that to happen. On my religious principles, I don't walk past dead bodies. And I told you why if I go there, I can't even go in there.
Okay. Most grateful, Murtala Mohammed. Now, finally, Nana.
Your final comments and closed caskets versus opening the casket for people to see what's in there.
Well, yesterday I saw a headline that said that Mr. Annan made some requests. Is this one of them?
I wouldn't know, but I think this...
I saw a headline. One of these papers said something about something that... I didn't read the story. I don't even remember the paper, but it was out there. I don't. If it is linked to this, it would be interesting to find out exactly what it is. But what's the general view out there? The general view, or the known thing that people have done over the wherever, is that you file past and the body, the casket is open and you get to see the person. So people are used to that. So this would be a bit awkward for them. So you can see why they raise a concern. I don't think that it should take away from the primary issue of showing sympathy and support for the family and for Mr. Annan. We should still be able to be there and show, because he was not just any person. He turned himself into a very important person in the world. One of the documentaries that was being shown on GBC had him with Mr. Hamid Karzai, is that his name? Mr. Karzai of Afghanistan. And he was standing next to him, and it was a press conference, and he says, he's the president of the world, and Mr. Kofi Annan was saying no, and he says whether he likes it or not. You know, so for a Ghanaian to rise to that level, it's an honor. And then he's our only Nobel Prize winner. We should be excited about that, and so it'll be good to see him off in a nice way. The casket, but let's not let that stop us.
Distract us as well.
The issue is, let's let him, wherever his soul is, you know that as he meets God, he says,